Well, my first athletic endeavor was cross-country running, and mostly because I was ADD as a child, probably the first ADD child ever. It was, back then, it was basically called hypertension, or something like that, and hyperactive, that's what it was called. So I ran out in the woods to run off energy, and that led to a sparkling career in cross-country running. That was a sport that was suited to me, and I became very mediocre at it. It led to a lifelong fixation on running, and I became better actually after a bout with asthma, and I came back and I continued to train running, and I'd gotten stronger because I'd taken up weightlifting. That's how I got into weightlifting as well. Over in the ABC, the Ashway Barbell Club, which was run by wonderful people, kept running into wonderful people, the Baileys, both of whom are gone now. And just made me really, really strong in the upper body, an area that we neglected as children, as runners, because they told us, in any case, if you have a choice, don't move your arms, which kind of had us running like this. So when I could move my arms and my legs, because my legs got very strong very fast, I was able to gobble up finishers in runs like 10-mile runs and things like that, and had a specific time of 59 minutes and 32 seconds over 10 miles, which I'm sure still stands as a record for a power lifter, Olympic lifter, triple kind of thing. And so that's how I got into both weightlifting and running. And powerlifting came later. And that was another, I was much more suited to powerlifting because of the lack of flexibility. I hate to say that to you. and the lack of joint flexibility. That's about it. So my numbers were reasonable for up there. I took second in the ADFPA Nationals once to a much superior guy who out deadlifted me by 40 or 50 pounds. My best lifts then were 512 and 292 weak bench, and 570, which is a very strong deadlift, sumo deadlift, 10% more. And that's about it. I mean, I just didn't do anything else in sports except became a coach. It did give me one thing. I got the travel bug. I'd gone to many places like Biloxi, Mississippi, Amarillo, Texas. Let's see, Wakkanai, Japan. Almost 4 years. We all got out early because of the slowdown of the war. It was 67 through 71, and they wanted to get rid of us because they had a huge influx of us at the beginning, and those were the years where the draft was really going, and it was really filtered up and got us filled up with people that we didn't need anymore. And I was in a very high level job, and they just didn't have enough time for me to get another assignment. And so I was happily out. I was already enrolled in college again, and did that, went back to college. In the early 80s, a friend of mine had asked me to come coach throwers, which I had never done, but it was high school throwing, and he said to me, literally said to me, well, you can't be worse than what I've got. You've done that Olympic lifting stuff, and that's about the same. So I went over and got in there early 80s, as I said, and spent about 16 years coaching throwers and football players and stuff like that, baseball players. And then as that went along, it got involved in more and more Olympic lifters coming in and stuff, to where I had a gigantic team of 5 people. It was New England Weightlifters, new N.E.W. Ooh. One of my first weightlifters was a woman who I later married, named Suzanne, she was an exception. She was an exception. Even today, she'd be an exception. She was doing 122 and 102 back then in like the 69 class, what would be the 69 class. So really, she was, quite exceptional. And I had a couple of other lifters too, Joey Dulce. We were a pretty good team locally, because most of the teams around were no bigger than us. It was exceptional to see that we would beat other teams around using females. And that was unheard of at that time. And so then, after that, Suzanne had gotten to such a level that she made a world team. And we got invited out to the OTC and down to Team Savannah, who were very big back then in the women's game. Had people like Cheryl HAWORTH and Cara Heads and stuff like that. Well, that's a very strange story, and possibly a litigious one too. Cheryl had a breakup with her coach and asked me to coach her because she was the only one, I was the only one that she trusted in the building, as she said. And that led to a whole lot of, I'd coached her before. I'd coached her in the room. I'd coached her on trips and stuff like that. And she just came to me one night and asked me to be her full-time coach. And I said to her literally, yeah, but that's going to get me fired. And so both those things happened in any case. And then we all moved on to another club, which was Coastal Empire Weightlifting, which is still around. It evolved into Kerry Goodrich's club, Performance Initiatives, and very good inner city club, very good club of any kind. And we all moved to there, and then I moved to muscle driver. Cheryl is the best I've ever seen in all-around Olympic lifting ability. Yeah, that's really, and again, you can see that her totals still hold up today. She made, I don't know how many, 10 or 12 world teams, 3 or 4 Olympics.
So she was pretty good.
Yeah, so she was saying, I don't even know how many Pan Am teams she made, any that she wasn't injured from or in, I don't know. That was, and like I say, the fact is that her records still hold up, even among the world team members, international world team members. They still hold up pretty well. They would probably have fallen to maybe 8th or 9th, but that's all. Especially that 162 clean and jerk that she got. That's unbelievable. Still an American record. Muscle driver was kind of a phone call. Glenn and Pendlay and I had become phone buddies, and he had asked me one time if I could come up and do a stint there while he was in Australia. And as it turned out, that went well. And then Glenn had a couple of times where he could not coach, and the people there asked me to stay on coaching. And then eventually Glenn had a stroke, and that was like the final thing. I took over as head coach. That was, well, it was great. It was probably, it was the best paying job I ever had, without a doubt. And it kind of evened up the balance sheets from the years of credit card life that I had done before. It was sort of starting to get even, and I don't know what happened there, but yeah, that was great. It was great. It went to I was working with people that I could do well with, and people that were liking me and stuff like that, and people that would perform well. And there was nothing to see. There was nothing to find out there. And if that had gone on, I'd have been very happy. And but then this guy Travis Mash came into the room. Oh, winning and then almost winning double national championships. I say almost because we got kind of rooked out of it. The second one by whoever. It doesn't matter now. But winning a back-to-back championship, men and women, yeah, that's my fondest memory. And some of the lifters there, Jess Kinsler and Ariel Ford, who were all big-time lifters. Jackie Bigger, who's, and let's see, I don't know. There were too many. There were too many, and they were a room of grown-up professionals, and that's different than this room is in respect to how old and whatever the people are, and that makes this room, MASH Elite, much more fun for me. There's much more variation. There's much more. We've got your boy, 14 years old, who's a phenom. We've got, 22-year-old Nathan DAMRON, who's, there's just there's a lot more fun to be had here, and a lot more developmental time, whereas back there I was dealing with people who were already complete and couldn't be changed much, and I had to try to make changes that were effective. Here I can see the effects. It's a great place to work. Well, I mean, it's been nutty, and it's been like a lot of fun. You can see I'm happy, and I got little 9-year-olds, and Lila and Cam is 10, and I just love it. I love it. I didn't think I would. I never thought I'd love coaching kids, but they're so malleable. Oh God. This is like you tell them to do something and they do it right now. And like with your boy, I told him the other day, you're not getting your heels down. You're not keeping your heels down. And he did it, and boom, 14 years old. And they listen and absorb. They listen and absorb, and that's real fun. That's real fun. Nathan DAMRON, strongest set of legs I've ever seen in person. Nathan has great ability, and he understands the sport. He understands what he's got to do to make himself better. He understands how the lift goes, and he makes changes. He makes little changes, and he can explain the changes that he's making and why he's making them. It's what makes him a little better than the rest, a little better than the rest. And I try to get that to every lifter, give that to every lifter. I try to have them understand the questions they should be asking, and get to those questions and stuff like that. And I think if I was to describe myself, I would say that I was probably one of the better natural coaches in the world. Sounds beautiful. Much on the vein of the Joe Mills type of pure person, much more than the sciencey, up on the latest stuff deals. I can sort of see the lifts in my head, and I know how they should go. I know how they should go, and it's all there is to it. It's all there is to it. It's changed over the last 10 years. I was looking back at the Nationals about 10 years ago, and we had about 200 or 300 people at the Nationals. Now we've got the better part of 1,000 going to these American Open things and stuff like that, and qualifying huge numbers. And so what I think is that it was caused by eventually the deterioration of the centralized program, and which we had all called for and knew it was bad, and the growth of the organization under leadership of Phil. Yeah, sure it has. Sure it has, especially but not only with women. We see that our numbers are up with women a lot. And basically, you've gone from a government agency model to a free enterprise model. in a very quick time, in a very precise, quick time. And it's been done step by step. It's been done extremely well, extremely well. I mean, I think there were a couple of years that there were growing years, and then smooth again, because people kept, as they do in private business, innovating. So, yeah. So the thing has changed immensely from about, well, before the 2000s, you had 1,500 people in the whole sport in the whole country. After that, you had 27,000 people within the next 10 years, the next decade, I think. We had 26,000. So, yeah, we've grown. Smaller. They were smaller, and the technique was not as good as it is now, because there is more information out there for kids to get on the internet and everywhere else, it seems, including some places that they shouldn't get it. But they were not as professionally run. The look of the meet has changed to one of an inviting kind of atmosphere that's obviously very, very good and very efficient, to something that was catastrophically inefficient before. And that's the way I think about it. Well, Coach Kang from South Korea was my biggest influence. And he taught me more in a very quick time than all the previous people that I came in contact with, as far as Olympic lifting, had taught me forever. I mean, it's just, it was, you know, I had him living in my house, which was an ideal situation. And he just went over stuff. And we, you know, it was like taking a course. His group of people had been, as juniors, as exceptional junior lifters, but maybe not the next level up, because that's where they get their coaches. They had been taken, a bunch of them had been taken to Russia and CCP back then, and Bulgaria. And what they came out with was a melded view of things. Pretty much everybody's best information. And that later became what is known now as the Chinese method. It evolved into that. And so he would be my best influence, and I got to give credit to the the Joe Mills factor. Joe Mills was first real natural coach. I would say that he would do more with less than any other coach ever in our country. And that's what I mean by that is he would take talent and make it ultra talent. He would take good talent and make it great talent. He would take fair talent and make it excellent talent. And everybody that went to him became better. Everybody that went to him became better. So as little contact as I had with him, everything out of his mouth was a jewel. And I understood it. Well, right now I hope we remain an Olympic sport. I think we pretty much guaranteed that for the next few years. I think it's a beautiful sport. I think it's something that everybody should do, no matter what. It's just a wonderful movement to see. They're wonderful movements to see and perform. And if you do it right, it's just great. And that's all. Well, I think, we've just gone over it. I think I'm addicted to seeing the good lifts. And the good lifts performed well are a beautiful thing to watch for me.